Oh, snap. Hello and welcome to the DoodleCast. Those chimes, they're magic. Again, I'm Nick G. We are here every week, doodling away, and today, hello world, we're going to talk about technology and reality.
Technology and reality.
Because they exist in the same world. And we are here today with Zamir Almazbek.
Hello.
He's the man. He's a very talented young dude. We'll hear more about him in a minute. And, of course, with Kat.
Hey.
But yeah, Zamir, since we just introduced you, who are you?
Who is Zamir, man? That's a good question. Now, Zamir is a person who lives in Denver, and he does art occasionally. It's pretty cool. In general, Zamir likes to think about the world.
Oh, shit.
While working. Part of that world has technology.
Yeah, right. What's like the first thing that comes to your mind hearing those words that Nick said, like technology and reality? Like, what are you most struck by, like, immediately?
I'd have to say really how fast it all moves. And how that would affect, like, reality, because it's exponential, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Observably. You guys remember cassette tapes? But yeah, that's kind of the first question I wanted to ask you guys. Kind of led into it really well. So a lot of people view technology as, and I mean it is functionally, a solution to problems that reality presents us. So what sort of problems do you see being solved by technology currently? And I'll just start with you, Zamir.
Well, what is technology, though? Like, how are we defining it? Is this technology in nature?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of examples of technology. I mean, we're not just talking computers. We could say that agriculture is a type of technology even. You know, we could go to that point. But just what is one piece of technology and its use that you see, like, helping the world?
Helping the world. Water filters?
Yeah. That is important, man.
True.
So, yeah, I mean, this is an open-ended question.
You know, it's hard for me to answer that question because I'm often very, like, I don't know, anti what technology is doing to people personally and, like, emotionally. But at the same time, a lot of, like, just the fact that we can all communicate with each other so readily and put our work out there, put our art out there so easily, whether that be visual art or music or whatever you do, there's, like, somewhere you're going to find a community on the internet that is going to support you, you know, if you just have to look hard enough. Like, you're always going to find someone with, like, similar interests or someone who wants to buy your stuff or, you know, so that's a really good thing. But to a certain extent, you know, it's like, it's a good thing to use technology to, like, advocate for yourself and what you do. But when it gets to a point where you're, like, obsessive over it, or, you know, I think technological addiction is a really, really real thing in our day and age. And I think that our generation in particular is kind of the first cases of this kind of an addiction. Like, it never really been seen that much before. So that's always really interesting to me, but...
Yeah.
And on that, with nests of people with similar interests and ideas, they could be bad.
Oh yeah, there's so many. Exactly.
And then it's just concentrating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then it's like a safe haven for all that. And then we get into free speech and all. And that's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it can be so, technology can be so negative, and it's a weird tightrope to balance on, trying to trying to handle the negative and positive aspects of it, and take the positive aspects without the negative ones, and
right. But everything has its cost.
it's true.
So I guess technology would be.
Yeah. What are you trading for the convenience, right? And I mean, in our society, we think of a lot of these things in terms of capital, which again is also a technology,
Really?
I would say an economy is a device that we have created to serve a certain function to help us deal with reality.
Whoa.
Zamir, is your mind blown by that statement?
Semi.
You're a little.
I've wondered that, like an economy, like, and to just have someone say that's on another level.
Yeah, to me, when I'm saying technology, it's just a thing people have made to make things easier. But what you were just talking about, I totally agree with. Like, there is some sort of trade-off when you start doing something in a way that makes it easier for you. Mm-hmm. You forget something that you used to have to do.
Like being bored.
Yeah.
My little sister, she is 7 years old, and my dad bought her an iPad when she was 5. Mm-hmm. And before that, she really knew how to play, like, was super invested in it. And if she had a moment, like 10 minutes being alone, she could get herself engaged in something. But now she spends hours watching, like, and this isn't a bad thing, because there's a huge community for this, and it's cool. But like Twitch streamers or YouTube creators,
like games and stuff, like people
playing
like
games.
Minecraft like you're not even playing the games yourself. Right. You're watching someone play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really big for small children. Like a lot of kids do that, and I think what you're describing is one of the biggest drawbacks of technology. Is kids these days aren't using their imaginations as much because it's all provided to them. And I'm all for like imaginative kid shows, and they're really cool, and they're all really funky and hilarious, and I love cartoons. I'm never gonna bash on cartoons, but when you have these things so readily available to you, kids choose that over like what we would consider real play, which has so much to do with your imagination and just kind of making fun for yourself, instead of having it being provided to you through something else. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, we create ways to deal with reality, and this kind of gets me into my next question. But the thing is that there are certain parts of our existence that we probably need to address. So my next question is, what parts of reality have you found useful lately? Kind of the same as technology, but what are things from life and just in the climate around you that have been, let's just say, enlightening? And I'll leave it open to either of you guys.
Well, is it something completely separate from like what any technology? That's what you're considering reality.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, just experience.
It's been helpful.
Yeah. Not something somebody made, but something that happens or has happened.
Well, I've been thinking about, I constantly think about kids and childhoods and growing up and what that means and how important that is. And, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before, just, using your imagination and entertaining yourself and not having everything provided for you. I think that is like such an important experience to have. But, you know, when I was a kid, I kind of resented it because, you know, a lot of my friends around me, you know, their parents were a lot more wealthy than mine. And their parents, like, gave them whatever they wanted. They never had to want for anything. They never, like, necessarily felt a lot of boredom, you know, or at least it seemed like that to me, when like it seemed like my life constantly was just like trying to figure out things to do with what little we had. But so I resented it when I was a kid, but looking back, I'm like really thankful that my parents didn't just give everything to me,
right?
And that I really had to, you know, make up my own little worlds.
Yeah, I feel that.
And read, and books. I mean, books, I guess, are a technology that is actually becoming very antiquated, which is crazy to me. But reading will never go out of style. I think that's an incredibly important part of the human reality is just ingesting stories and important material.
Language is amazing that it even exists.
Yeah.
That it can form or
that's like the original technology language.
I think that is a very true statement.
That's communication technology right there.
It's well, you know, our brains are the original technology, really. Like the human brain is just insane, and the fact that we can construct language like we do is just like crazy.
Yeah, that we can alter consciousness.
Yeah.
The fact, just human brains in general are crazy.
Yep.
And that kind of leads into my answer.
Yeah.
Because I've worked in a lot of restaurants. And phones, just like, it's so weird what phones do in a workplace. Especially ones where you have access to every bit of information you could ever want within seconds. And consecutively, like, oh, all right, that. And then you go down the wormhole. But anyways, this isn't really a helpful thing. But in reality, something... I feel like it's related to technology and maybe our overuse is in the workplace, people just like using their technology all the time, and it's normal. It's absolutely cool to do that, to just be lost, totally unapproachable, entirely. And
I know exactly what you mean. It's like a loss of presence.
right,
Like people
right,
are no longer just here now. They're always off somewhere else in their screens.
They're gone.
Yeah, they like might as well not even be in the room.
And it feels like that.
It
feels like
does.
they're not there.
Yeah, it does, because they really aren't. Their mind is somewhere completely other,
Right.
and the little screens are too small for anyone else to really see unless you actively want to show
It's
someone.
your own personal little world.
And we've all done that before.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
For sure. I felt the need to do that.
I mean, it's a human need to sort of like go back into yourself and like have that solitude, but like people can do that while being around other people now, which is crazy. And like what you're talking about made me think of honestly is like Tinder and stuff. Like technology has completely changed how people meet one another. Like, and I think a really important human experience to have in reality is just like going and meeting someone like randomly without having like
a blind date or something.
Or
does that ever happen?
Yeah, does that happen anymore, right? Exactly. Like, I don't think that does, because people can always look each other up, and you can always look, find out something about someone before you ever meet them.
Yeah.
And I think a part of the impulse to do that, why it's become so rampant, is like fear. Like, people are so afraid these days of like walking outside their houses and like getting murdered because it happens.
Yeah.
But like, that's the kind of thing that people need not to fear to live their lives in a healthy way.
Right.
Like, you have to be aware of these options. Like, something might horrible happen to you, but you can't let that fact hold you back from like doing things how you want to. So it's like, you don't have to meet someone online and stalk them on Facebook and stuff. Like, you can just go out and try to meet someone in the real world, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, well, you guys are making it easy for me today. Because one of the, like, topics with this whole subject, because I don't think that it's, like, absolutely none of it is good or bad. Reality is not objectively good or bad. The things we make and the ways we use them are not necessarily good or bad. And I think one of the things that kind of catches me about technology and its use is something that's, like, very true about a lot of things that people use and do, is that there's, like, this line between, are you using it or are you abusing it? Like,
are you using you?
Yeah. Well, because when you abuse something, you're not being mindful of what you're doing. You're abusing yourself too.
True.
You know, in any way, shape, or form.
What is abusing technology?
What you guys were just talking about.
Yeah, just
all right, yeah.
being totally
when
addicted.
You're not using it for a function that's necessarily helpful, you're using it to escape. You know what? I'm all for escapism. It's not necessarily bad.
But too much means we use that
Yeah.
power too often.
I mean, yeah, it's always been a necessary part of humanity is this need to escape your circumstances or go somewhere else. But, you know, like I said, like, you can do that now while sitting in a room with a bunch of other people. And, like, you know, there's a possibility, you could actually talk to those people and meet one of them, and it turns out you both want to go to, like, Nepal, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, that's your escape. Like, go travel, go meet new people. Like, that's how you escape your circumstances.
Right.
Like, going on the internet just makes you feel worse. So,
Do you
like,
think
that's
people
been my
understand
experience.
that? The people who abuse technology, do you think the majority of them, or even some of them?
No, I don't. I think because technology has this, it does in a lot of cases bring people together, whether that be in a negative or positive way. It brings people together, and I think that people look at that aspect of it and don't really look at the negative parts of it. You know, a lot of people just see it as a really good way for people to talk to one another, but
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize how destructive the technology that we're using can be.
And it's very new technology.
Oh, yeah.
When you think of the entire span of history. And for it to have such a dramatic change, it's kind of scary, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're rapidly evolving now into like almost like these completely new species of human. Like, that's what it feels like to me, you know? Like, and when you look at like your grandparents, like I even knew my great grandparents, you know? It's like people now are so different than people were 50, 60 years ago. Like, it's a crazy thing to like see.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, I am a true believer in this philosophy that a lot of art is generated from the archaic. And that's not, I don't mean archaic with the negative connotation. I mean, like, the things that people don't use anymore and forgot how to use. Because my example of this is, and honestly, you could get way more basic than this example. You could even put it just in the microcosm of photography. Like, so anybody's a photographer now. That's awesome. But before we took photographs, you know, you'd have somebody that would literally do a super detailed drawing, carve it into wood or burn it into wood, and pull prints of it, you know? And before that, you would have somebody that would sit there and paint you.
Yeah.
You know? Like, and now those sorts of tasks are relegated to the realm of art, but they used to be the technology that people used, similar to like the way that we use phones and computers and stuff. So that's kind of my next question is, and I know this is a really hard one because I've been thinking about it, and it's a boggler.
Great.
But what do you what do you think are some uses of the current technology that will develop once it becomes outdated? Or what are some positives you could see it being used for?
Of technology, parts of technology being
like kind of the modern stuff. And I mean, some of it's happening now. I think that there are positive ways you can use it. And I mean, that is kind of what I'm getting at. How do you make it connect with reality? Or how do you see that happening? Because, yeah, that is a tough question to be like, hey, what are you going to do? So it's not what are you going to do, but how do you see that going down?
Well, we could take Uber in the taxi industry. Maybe it wasn't like the technology, but a technological move, or like an industry adopting technology, that would have been the logical choice. And the taxi industry didn't do that. So when someone else did, it filled the void of something that was kind of like the next progression. And that had many different, effects, I guess.
Yeah.
Good and bad in affecting that industry. But, yeah. What about things like outdated things, man?
They're not outdated yet.
Like stuff that we're using now will eventually be outdated.
Yeah,
and
right.
Nick's question was like, how do you think that stuff, when it becomes outdated, the stuff we're using now, when it becomes outdated, how could it be used differently in a good or a bad way? Or, in any way. So the first thing that comes to mind with me, I went very macro, like big picture. So where we are now with technology, I feel like we're moving into realms of virtual reality, which I am not necessarily the biggest advocate for, because it is like the ultimate form of technological escapism. And I don't think that it's healthy. But so there's that side. That's like to me the negative side. Like this moving towards people almost completely living their lives through screens. It gets to the point, honestly, like in some places like South Korea, where technology is just everywhere, and people are like, the gamer community is just huge. And I actually read a story, I think on Vice, that like these two gamers ended up having a baby together, and their child died from malnutrition because they played their games so much that they neglected their baby. Jesus. And it's so easy for humans to get trapped in things like that. And it scares me. So that's the bad side. But then the positive side, in an ideal future, which I am very pessimistic about, because nothing about our dimension is ideal. Anyway, like the fact that technology is like this very, very important way of connecting people from around the world, like it can, I think that it should lead to more of a idea of a collective consciousness and people realizing that we are so similar, and breaking down barriers. I feel like it does, the internet is a very powerful thing that has the capacity to do things like that if people use it creatively and correctly, I would say.
Right.
I mean, correctly, there's no correct way to use anything, but in my opinion, I think creatively is actually the operative word there. I think that people need to use the internet more creatively, because it really does have so many applications that aren't being used.
Well, how we were talking about how dope language is? Yeah. How dope would it be if the next progression of language was that we actually gave a hoot about compiling human knowledge, and we use the internet to do that. And I know that it's being done in really small ways by private organizations and like the Library of Alexandria.
And schools also.
But schools is such a small scale, though.
Yeah, like when I was in college, I was a foreign languages
And it's
major.
not that interconnected yet.
And I had the opportunity to translate documents found in a catacomb, like an old catacomb in like Morocco. This old like French documents, like they were all scanned into the computer, and then as a class we like took these documents, were each assigned some, and translated them onto this internet database. And so our translations got submitted, and now people can like look at this translation I did of this like random old ass document and look at the original like side by side. That was like one of the coolest things I did in school, honestly.
Yeah. No,
What about
yeah.
the opposite of that, where it's almost like a wave. All of the major powers like U.S., China, and Russia, and North Korea, and a bunch of Asian countries, they make sure that you can't access the information from the past.
Right? Very weird.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, we live in a really
The thing
restrictive
is,
world.
yeah.
Government just wants to restrict people so that they can control that.
Well, they're not using the internet to do that. You know
Oh,
what
are
I
you
mean?
kidding me?
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
Well,
What are you
it's
talk-
on the internet, but they're not using the internet to accomplish that. They're using the same old tricks they've been using for...
But they're using demographics that they get from the internet, from, governments can see everything that we search and are,
And we literally put our lives up on there.
Yeah.
They can
check it
access
out.
any of that, and like Zamir said, they can control what you're actually seeing on the internet, and they can restrict that. So yes, the governments around the world use the internet
I
to
guess
control
that's true.
people.
But I mean, it's like
It's one of the biggest ways.
They're using like the same methods they used when it was still print, and
Sure, exactly. It's just moved into a different medium.
they're not very creative about it.
I would agree with that. That's what I'm saying. People
Yeah.
need to use the technology that we have more creatively.
Could be in a thug, guys.
But it's hard. It's hard to learn that stuff. Like my dad's a software engineer and is actually capable of doing like stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Do you think we will?
It's just practice.
I hope that we will. I hope the internet becomes a different thing than it is, and I hope it doesn't keep going down this like really negative path that I see today. But I think in order for that to change, like news has to change. So like media in general has to change. Society in general has to
the
change.
culture.
Like everything just
And
has to be
individual people need to
destructed
change.
and
right.
built back together, which
Not gonna happen, probably.
it's hard. It might happen. I recently read a sci-fi story that's like, it was about just like this one day that everyone cracks. Like there's just one day
God.
everyone starts like shooting each other.
It's like, we're done.
It's like, the population just reached a tipping point where like everyone is so misanthropic and negative and sick of everything that it literally just becomes like, an apocalyptic situation like overnight. It might happen. I don't know.
Maybe there could be an awakening.
Yeah,
That's
I think that's
sometimes
less likely to
drop their
happen
phones.
than like something really, really violent. That maybe for our future might be best.
Yeah, like things have to get way worse before they can get better.
I really do think a lot of people have to die, but that's horrible. And like I'm willing to accept the fact that I might be one of those people.
Yeah.
But I really do think in order to save our planet, a lot of people have to die, and and that might be a contagion, that might be a disease, it might be nuclear war. There's so many options.
It might be hardwired into our technology
Yeah.
and like our biology. There's.
I mean,
something-
like cancer's so
So,
rampant these days. Like it's
Right.
happening. Like people are dying
But then
off.
there's technology to stave that off.
That's why we
Right.
have such an overpopulation problem, is because we're such technological creatures that are always trying to save people and make more people live, even people that probably shouldn't live when you think about it biologically.
Yeah.
That was a really big turn in our society that a lot of people base their lives on, as far as that being the best thing to happen in history. And I kind of am on the opposite end of that. Like, I really don't think that medical advancement and all these things were like that great of a thing for our planet as a whole.
Right.
Our whole ecosystem
Yeah.
as people on
For people,
Earth
it's
and
great,
animals
though.
and everything that lives on Earth and like this planet.
Yeah.
It's not a good thing. But for people, yes, who only think about people,
Yeah.
which I'm not that kind of person. So
I think the planet will be fine anyways. 100,000 years from now, even if we nuke the shit out of it, that would be a bummer. Because then we would irreversibly change the whole game. But, like, if we all die off, you know, plants, bacteria, it'll all just grow into something new. You know, like, the wave it's like waves and eras. You know, there are the dinosaurs, and then the weird fish, and the protozoa. And now, like, we're walking guts and everything.
The dinosaurs were around a much longer time than we were. And they used up a lot more resources than we did on an individual basis. Probably not now. But, like, from a biological standpoint. And we've definitely heightened those epochs, you know. It's definitely interesting to think about.
But what I'm saying is, like, you know, it doesn't matter, if, like, just humans are wiped out, yeah, the Earth is going to be fine. But so we are, like, systematically destroying so many different ecosystems around the world, and that has severe consequences to the whole world. And so many species every year are becoming extinct or endangered.
Yeah.
And it's just like this snowball effect where I feel like it's going to get to a point where we have killed off most of the animal population of the world, and then it's just humans and, like, wasteland. Like, that's what I'm afraid of, you know? And, like, sure, maybe the Earth can come back from that and you know, start anew. Like, of course,
right.
You know, things always work in cycles, and that's very possible. But I think there's a lot of really beautiful stuff on the Earth that should be preserved on our current Earth. Like, we live in a really, 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 really incredibly beautiful world, and it's such a tragedy that it is going to shit so rapidly.
Yeah. What if that's our swan song? What if that's, like, the beautiful, morbid, horrible end that...
It's probably that humanity deserves.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, if you look at, like, art and throughout history, this point feels maybe not entirely natural, but it's kind of like a, you know, excess
It's so surprising.
happiness, and those things have always been encapsulated in art, and, like, beauty and sex, drugs. It's always been ingrained in our society and our art, and it's this dark side of us that is always there. And I think that's what manifests and creates this tendency to abuse technology.
Oh, yeah.
And that might just be what happens, like, our tragic, beautiful end is we devour ourselves and close off so far. You know, I have hope that humans don't do that. I feel like we're a very, like, blessed animal. Or
I think we're capable.
If we
Agreed.
can get past that tendency towards destruction. But yes, we have an incredibly innate tendency towards destruction, and you see it on a personal level with people, like, they destroy themselves constantly.
Yeah.
And then you see it on a global level with our society, like, it is destructive, and at the end of the day, doesn't promote things that it should promote, like women and children, and
Picking up the trash.
and health.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Because health isn't just medicine, you know.
no, it's not. I actually think health is the opposite of medicine. It's like it's diet and it's spirituality and
balance.
yeah.
See, I'm always a little conflicted though, because I don't know. Medicine is a good thing, guys. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
To an extent though.
But it's the use.
I'm all
versus
for like immunizations.
the abuse of it, and you know.
Yeah.
So, kind of getting back to that sort of mindset. I mean, we're pretty much talking about it, but just to have a little direction. So, like, we were talking about like technology and its use within social systems, and we were really getting into this conversation about like, are we in too deep? But how do you recognize in yourself when you're in too deep and the technology is beyond you? Either you aren't able to use it or you feel you might be addicted to it in some way.
Oh, dude, it's when I experience the FOMO, the fear of missing out. Like when you're on the internet and you're seeing, like, you're reading stuff about people doing all this cool shit. You're seeing your friends, like, traveling and, like, doing cool shit and, like, you know, being really successful or, what, you know, or seemingly, you know, because no one, you know, really tells that much truth on the internet. Anyway, and you just, I always just get this, like, punch in the gut feeling like I'm not doing enough. I'm not good enough. I wish, you know? And that, it makes me incredibly sad. And it really stunts me. It, like, holds me back from doing more. Because I'm so focused on what everyone else is doing and comparing myself to that. So that sucks. It's not something you should do, and it's so rampant. Like, it's so easy to feel insecure about your life these days. Like,
yeah. I mean, it kind of gets me into the topic I've been giddy about all morning, guys.
Cool.
Which is one of the things that's happening with the progression of technology. This is such a weird question. When I wrote it down, I was like, I don't know if this phrase is right. But so I'm sure you guys are familiar with the idea of singularity, right? Mm-hmm. So how, because we were just talking about like that personal reference, how do you recognize anymore? And I feel like we're starting to lose the skill as a species. That's just my opinion. But how do you recognize when you're interacting with a consciousness but you can't tell if it's yours or somebody else's anymore?
What?
Yeah, it's a weird question.
Like people or...
I think that's an essential thing that needs to happen to everybody. I think that it's so important to step out of your ego and realize that our consciousnesses are all connected. I'm like a big believer of that.
Like we're all part of like one spirit, like one consciousness.
Because we're all part of the same
like that.
ecosystem.
But then is it fair when you put your perception onto somebody else's consciousness, you know?
I don't think people, for the most part, intentionally do that.
Yeah, I don't
just
think they really
happens.
Yeah.
And it can make you, it's kind of a scary moment because people are really resistant to that kind of contact. But I think it's really, really essential for humanity to like move past all the hate and anger and fear that we're feeling right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
What if you came in contact with like a internet singularity that like a consciousness that has actually developed between, you know, the pathways of the internet, like something has actually become aware of itself,
And there's no humans involved.
Yeah,
exactly. Out of a lab, essentially.
Yeah, essentially, exactly. You know, like imagine how many like possible neurological pathways something could build within the the confines of what the internet is, which you know may not have any confines at all.
Yeah.
I would love to come in contact personally with a being like that. I think that the right human could use it for so much good. If something has become self-aware of itself inside of the internet, you can almost do anything with that. And I don't know if the being would necessarily realize how powerful it was. That would just be its existence. So if someone could actually talk to it, it could change everything.
So this is why I'm always very skeptical of AI. Is it within that? But it's a cool fucking. It's a great science fiction idea.
I know,
and honestly, if it happened, yeah. But the whole thing is the reason why most scientists will tell you there is no such thing as AI is because if you created something completely standalone, self-aware, without any human input, right?
I mean, it'd have to
it's
have
not
it would
technology
have to
anymore.
have
You can't
human
use
input.
it anymore. It is.
It would have to have human input and knowledge.
Oh,
Well, then it's
that's
not
what you
artificial
meant by
intelligence. So, like, it's still a program.
But what if so a human makes a program, puts all these things into it. The program starts learning, though.
Yeah.
Like, if you teach a program to learn, you cannot necessarily control what it is going to learn. And the conclusions it's going to come to.
Right. But if it has artificial intelligence, by definition, it would have to keep doing that without your input, meaning
Yeah,
it would
exactly.
be of no use. It wouldn't be technology anymore. Like, it's
That
So
might
what?
be the first
Okay.
alien.
yeah, did
It
we
would-
create
would
a
it-
new entity?
Exactly.
I'm scared.
And that thing has its own reality.
Oh, God.
And,
Yeah, exactly.
And yes, it is. It becomes something incredibly real and potentially something that can like feel and manipulate.
Right. And you were saying something that we're a part of the same conscience, part of the same environment and ecosystem. Mm-hmm. And that's something that connects us. What if we create this thing that has nothing else? It just is itself. And it doesn't know anything.
Well, yeah, it would have a lonely existence, really.
Yeah.
I encourage everyone who's really interested in what we're talking about right now to read a book called Coils by Roger Zelazny, and it's actually, there's another author that he wrote it with, maybe Thomas Pynchon.
Zelazny collabs.
Coils, it's called Coils. It's really, really great, and it's just about exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Or The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Heinlein. There's a lot of cool AI stuff in that too. Recommendations. Speaking of recommendations, do you have any recommendations of shit people should go see this week?
Man, this is probably a good point. So there's actually a comedy show tonight at Cap Hill Tavern called Philosophy from 8 to 10. I would advise it.
Who's
Comedy is
gonna
good for you.
be doing some comedy out there tonight?
I honestly am not that tapped in with it.
Okay, just some people.
It just looked interesting to me.
Denver comedy is really great.
Yeah. Yeah. And then one of the things I wanted to plug are these people that they've honestly been around for a while. They're really great. They go by DIS, which is the Denver Illustration Salon. Their last event was last night, so I didn't get to plug it for you. But they do these all the time. They do a drink and draw at the Mercury Cafe. They do zoo sketches from time to time. They do a whole bunch of cool stuff. If you ever want to draw, hang out with cool people, definitely look up the Denver Illustration Salon. And then one of the other things, and I know this is confusing because the last little thing I gave you was the DIS. There's also the Denver Art Society coming up on August 19th at 4 p.m. They have an intro to sculpting workshop, which is pretty cool. Sculpture's fun, guys. Give it a
Sculpture's
try.
really great. One of the best like mixed media art forms because you can really do whatever the fuck you want. Use any materials.
And then also coming up the day after that, 8/20, or August the 20th, is the 40th annual Mushroom Festival at the Denver Botanic Gardens.
What?
It's not that type of mushroom festival.
Yeah.
But it's still
Calm
cool.
down, Zamir.
Mycology is fun.
Yeah, any kind of
I
mushrooms
like it.
are great.
Yeah, they're mostly delicious, except for the tiny brown ones. In which case, they're only delicious if you are suicidal. So, yeah, those are just some things kind of coming up. And then just kind of getting back into the topic at hand, because we just kind of, it's a big topic. And really, this idea of the singular consciousness achieved through the means of technology, because I actually think we've achieved singular consciousness, maybe not in large scales, but I think it's something that people do without technology.
We have a $1,000 bet on about that.
I think that it's definitely something people do without technology. It's something that happens, and honestly, I think a lot of people are resistant to it, and that's why it hasn't become a bigger thing.
Technology.
The
singularity.
Collective consciousness, kind of, which has to do with the singularity.
Wouldn't that be God? Will we literally create a God?
This is what God feel like.
But seriously.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much.
Well, it's not. It's realizing that we are God together, and each one of us is God in their own right.
Yeah.
And realizing that we really have all of the power.
We got the power.
I don't know. Yeah. People use their mental energies on a lot of things that are, in my opinion, a waste.
And in reality, I think that's exacerbated dramatically with the current climate of literally every fucking thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so much stress. We're reaching a fever pitch, I feel like.
People don't know what to put their energies into, and a lot of people misdirect their energies and end up fucked. Just fucked. Oh, fucking wicked fucked, man.
Wicked fucked.
Wicked fucked. Seriously, though, you know?
Yeah.
People try to find things in crazy places, and, you know, you can't blame them for it. No one...
Well, it was all inside yourself the whole time.
Yep. Truly, you have to understand yourself before you understand any of this. And not a lot of people can say that, like, they truly know themselves. I can't say that.
Yeah, neither can I. I'm searching.
Exactly.
And they search, they look for the wrong places.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
They find themselves in other people.
But
And then they never find themselves, and you're like, oh, I wonder why.
Bummer.
But I mean, that's part of finding yourself too.
you need other people. You definitely need other people. But you need to also recognize that other people don't have control over you.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to put it. Like, even though you need other people around, and you need that experience of recognizing yourself in someone else,
That's empathy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it's important also to create barriers.
Right, you can be too empathetic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I deal with a lot in my life, and working with kids who are just these balls of crazy emotions that can't control themselves. Like, you really need to have a place within yourself where you can just go and, like, not be so affected by all the stuff around you and other people. But it's just, like everything, it's a balance. It always comes down to that. You got to find a balance
It's
between
like
feeling
our
other
buzzword.
people, and I know that's everyone's buzzword right now in our community.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you guys hear about the Facebook AI that they shut down?
Oh yeah, dude. That was
That's
fascinating to me.
That's wild.
It started making its own language and talking to other bots and then people couldn't understand, and so it scared the shit out of Facebook, and they had to take it offline. What I was talking to my sister about this, I was like, exactly what we're talking about. Like, what if it never went, like, left? Like,
oh, stop.
What if it was on long enough to kind of back itself up somewhere else and keep living? I don't know. I love this shit. I love talking about this shit. I love the possibility of it, because I honestly think that a being like that would be really, really amazing, and like change our history in a lot of good ways.
You just want to be friends with a supercomputer.
Or an alien.
Yeah.
And that is kind of like an alien too. It's just like this weird first contact sort of situation that I always want. Yeah. I just want that really bad.
I just want world peace.
Oh God.
Fuck that.
Wow, Nick. That was a really great statement.
Yeah. Well,
Do tell more.
Well, I mean, we're talking about this idea of, the collective consciousness finally collecting. Because I think it's always existed, right? As long as our species has. I'm pretty convinced of that. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I think actually some of our ancestors, like way back, communicated mostly telepathically. That's something I believe, actually.
Well, and I mean, we do it, most of our communication is actually through, like, body language and gestures. That's what because we were talking about how cool language was. We did things before language, which is how we developed language. Whoa. But anyway, just kind of like, sort of a last question, just to kind of lighten the subject a little bit. What are some cool ways you see people bringing reality to the technology, or bringing the technology to the reality?
I think there are a lot of really cool digital medias and forms of art, and I like how a lot of artists are creatively using technology to better their art. Like, for example, like Ben Heyman.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's a good example of that, because he uses digital images and then sort of like prints the outlines onto things and then hand paints it. So he just has this crazy process where he's like really using both technology and like this real art form that's, ancient, like painting, and making this really cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I love his kind of a huge part of, like, conceptually, a lot of the stuff you'll see him do is like these reclaimed memes. They're so whimsical and fantastic, and they're not even like memes that exist. They're
just memes he makes up.
Using that medium,
Yeah.
And
Yeah, exactly.
Great. Like, there's, and he's trying to sell buttons and stuff right now. So, dear internet, check out Ben Heyman. He's a great dude. Buy some buttons from him.
For
you
real.
will not regret it.
He makes amazing buttons.
Like, there's one, it's just got like a bunch of Waldos in the background, and then a Where's Waldo in the foreground. And it just says, "What the fuck do you want?" It's the most amazing thing. But yeah, I think that is a good example for sure. Zamir, how do you see the crossing of the things we make and the reality around us? Cool stuff with that going on around you.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Oh boy. You said taking technology to reality and reality to technology.
Either or both, whatever.
I think that the interconnectedness of technology, that is something that's kind of cool. Like, we've been droning on about how horrible the world is right now, and it's true.
It's an easy subject to do.
Right. I do this every day. But one cool thing is that interconnectedness exposes people who may have been ignorant
Yeah.
to other ideas and other realities to what the reality is. And even if they are willfully oblivious and ignorant, and they just encapsulate themselves in their little pocket, inevitably this other realities will be shown to them.
Yeah.
They'll be exposed to it, and they may not realize it or acknowledge it now. I don't know. That reality is kind of wild, because I've seen some things on the internet, and people have shown me things through pictures and phones and everything of people's lives in Denver, of crazy things throughout the world, tribal culture.
Yeah.
And it's just so wild how different life is.
I always just think it's mind-blowing that people haven't really reached that point yet. Like, it's just like, wow.
I think
it's so in our faces now. Like,
I think some people are, but
Yeah.
it's really how you respond to something like that. Like, what are you the type of person to take something that's so different than them and be like, wow, I want to understand that. I want to know that better. I'm not going to judge that.
yeah.
I'm going to research it and see what's at the base of it and see that, in almost everything that you would consider weird or other, you can kind of find a parallel in your own life of you having the same impulse but doing something else.
Yeah.
So it depends. Like, are you the type of person to accept the other, or are you the type of person to resist it? Because then, this is so much of the internet is people in face of something other, seeing these things that you wouldn't necessarily see normally without this technology, and then lashing out on it, being like, I can't handle this, fuck this, no,
Yeah.
I am just gonna bash on this, I'm just gonna troll on this, I'm just gonna try to make this person feel as horrible as they can because this is something that I do not agree with. So, and that's honestly how I feel like most of the population handles stuff like that, is instead of accepting it and trying to understand, they take the easy way and just resist it and, accept their understanding up to that point as what is true. And people don't move past their current understandings into new ones. It's really, really hard for people to learn in how I consider learning, which is change.
Yeah.
Do you think that environment is purposefully made?
I think parts of it, for sure. I mean, I was just going to say, I'm guilty of being that way towards religious people. But,
Yeah.
I mean, there's some pretty objective evidence that shows religious people cause a lot of fucking problems. And
It's mostly religions that have...
But, I've been trying to not judge it so much lately, but for me it's just like, oh, you're just wasting that human brain in your skull box. Like, please. But
And there's people who react like that to us.
I know. They're like, ugh.
And, the people that would react like that to us are
He's
the
a
people
man
that are going to also
colored
react like
pink.
violently to things.
Yeah.
Because they're resisting it so much. They're going to lash out. And then honestly, when you resist something, in my opinion, most of the time it's because you identify it in yourself and you're resisting that part of yourself. And you take it out on other people. Like, I honestly think most homophobes are gay.
Yes. I think that is a very fair thing to say. I don't know if we can end on that note, but
Oh yeah, do we need to...
it's pretty close.
Yeah, we don't have to end on that note. We've got some time, right?
Okay. Yeah, we got a couple minutes. I mean, I think if you don't agree with that statement, though,
I think you need to look into yourself a little bit. A
get in
little
touch with your feminine
introspection.
side. Maybe
Always,
kiss a guy
always.
once and try it out.
Try to find the goddess within you, because she's within all of us.
Yeah.
She didn't die. She's still around, even though they tried to kill her.
Yeah, she's chilling.
She's always in the back of our minds.
She's all about health and health.
Health.
Healing and
She's all
growing.
about health.
Health.
Health and
I
wellness.
mix words when I was speaking. What is that called? Portmanteauing?
Yeah.
Portmanteauing my ass down the block.
Le portmanteau.
Le portmanteau.
Le portmanteau.
The irony is, it's when you mix two words together, and it's actually a British word, but it's totally a portmanteau of two French words.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Ain't that meta?
Well, you can't really separate British and French
Portmanteau is a
history.
portmanteau. Yeah, as much as they would like you to.
Yeah, you really can.
Do you ever like switch two words in a sentence?
Whipping your flirts.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
Whipping your flirts.
Whipping the
Hey, I'll be whipping my flirts.
Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
Thanks
dude.
for coming.
Of course.
Yeah.
I love all the like pointillism you do. So many dots.
Yeah.
It's good.
This is my escapism right here.
I know, right? Same, dude. Same.
Kirklanding down.
We have a lot of the same tendencies toward just doing really like small neurotic details to things. And we both are like that. You on a whole nother level though. Your art is amazing, Zamir. And like if you guys haven't checked out Zamir, you guys really should. He does some really, 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 really cool stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, he's out here making it, you know?
Living the dream.
Always.
Putting it together, man.
Living the dream of dreaming to live.
Living the dream.
I don't know about that. Alright, guys. So we're getting pretty close to that time where I ingratiate this great space. We are at the Ghost House Denver. We got Rich on the boards and Miles helping out with Miles helping out with tech. I forgot the S. And this is, of course, WeAreDenver. We're the collective doing this, coming in here today, getting down. Shout out to Samson for helping out with tech every week.
Shout out to Ryan Fu, as always, for
producing
everything.
He is, ladies and gentlemen, the producer's producer. That is Ryan Fu. He's a beast among men. And also you can catch us at Meet in the Street. Sadly, you'll not be able to catch Ryan Fu there these last couple weeks.
Just me and Nick.
Kat and I will be there. We'll give you a hug. And, yeah, we got music coming up for that. It's the last 2 Saturdays this month, guys. So come catch it before it's gone. You don't get to see art and music done with care on the 16th Street Mall. You can go buy stuff there, though, any day of the week if you want.
I'm good on that.
Oh, yeah, me too. I'm just saying, if you're into that rampant consumerism, go for it. And yeah, this has been the DoodleCast. And thanks again to Zamir for coming through. Zamir the man. And thanks to Kat. She the lady. And I'm Nick G. And you guys have a groovy week. Oh, yeah.
First, let me apologize, 'cause I know you're not gonna like this conversation. I've been kinda hard to find, and I know that you deserve an explanation. Well, I've been thinking about it, how I supply you. I'm undecided on what I'm supposed to do. I think I'm lying when I think I'm telling truth. Either way, that's still unfair to you. It's hard enough escaping my reflection and thinking what he's thinking about too. I know that all you wanted was affection, something I could never do. What if I love less? 'Cause you know I'm all the stress. What if I love less? I won't hurt you, babe. I won't hurt you, babe. What if I love less? 'Cause you know I'm all the stress. What if I love less? I won't hurt you, babe. I won't hurt you, babe. I already know what you gon' say. It's unfair to be predicting how you're feeling. And maybe we can compensate and concentrate on things that bring you healing. While I know that you're trying to help, you should be trying to save yourself. 'Cause I've been thinking about it, how I surprise to you. I'm undecided on what I'm supposed to do. I think I'm lying when I think I'm telling truth. Either way, that's still unfair to you. It's hard enough escaping my reflection and thinking what he's thinking about too. I know that all you wanted was affection, something I can never do. What if I love less? 'Cause you know I'm